Okay, tonight we're doing chapters 19 and 20 of Spiritual Lies by John Kenney. Chapter 19 is Reinstatement of Sam. Sam awakens to a new day. As memories of Thursday come flooding back over him, he gets up to begin what should be a big day. Likely find out when his court date will be and exactly what charges have been made against him. Making a cup of coffee and an egg sandwich, Sam tries to call Mr. Brown, but all he gets is the answering service. Leaving a message, Sam gets dressed and considers what the day might hold for him. He calls Susie, but she lets all go to the answering service. Usually, Susie is very interested in what is happening in Sam's life. Apparently, not today. Sam gets in his car to drive to Mr. Brown's office downtown. He has no appointment, but he had the impression that Mr. Brown is going to get right on this case. Good morning, Mr. Waycross, smiles the receptionist. Did you have an appointment with Mr. Brown today? No, not really, but I was in early this morning and he left for an appointment with Miss Alice White, reports the receptionist. You can either leave and await his call to you, or you can wait for him here in the meeting room that you used yesterday. Your choice. Well, honestly, if you don't mind, head on back there. I will bring you a cup of coffee there. No sugar, one cream, right? You are right, laughed Sam. It really feels good to laugh a little when things aren't going so well. While he is waiting for Mr. Brown to get back from his meeting, Sam uses his phone to check out other teaching positions in the state. He actually finds several elementary schools opening with a few here in the city. He finds that the application process it's much more automatic now than when he first applied. Sam becomes so involved in applying for teaching jobs in the state that he loses track of time. Suddenly, he's startled by a loud knock on the meeting room door. Immediately following the loud knock, in comes Mr. Brown, all proper and official. Good morning, Mr. Waycross, says Mr. Brown, offering his hand. I hope you haven't had to wait too long. Do come bearing some, I think, good news. Good morning, Mr. Brown, says Sam, shaking his offered hand. I actually appreciate being allowed to use this meeting room this morning. I've applied to 4 elementary schools already this morning, so my wait has been fruitful. I admire your industrious work ethic, Mr. Waycross, compliments Mr. Brown. May I show you what has been accomplished with your school this morning on your behalf? Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Brown, agrees Mr. Waycross. Show me what you've got. Okay, first, my meeting this morning was with Miss Alice White, assistant principal at your elementary school, begins Mr. Brown. After sharing our overview, I allowed her to fill in a lot of the blanks. I did not tell her what we were looking for at all. Why not? Asked a surprised Sam. It's always good to allow others to do most of the talking, explains Mr. Brown. Because they don't know what you want, they may offer more than what you want. She said that she has spoken with several of the people involved: Brett Green, a fifth grade teacher, Joe Banks, a grade teacher, Nicole Grump, a third grade teacher, Mrs. O'Brien and her son Alex, plus a couple of your former students. That is what we learned. This is what we learned from Principal Jacobs, continues Mr. Brown. He approved your wigwam project and even participated in it. One of your students' parents told Jacobs that you were not actually teaching school, but rather allowing the kids to play at making teepees. She insisted that you be fired immediately, and without doing any investigation, Jacobs agreed to terminate you. Because of the parents' insistence, he disregarded the normal teacher correction procedures and just fired you, all because of that one parent. Doesn't that make him the bad guy here? Asks Sam. Violations are upheld or disregarded often because of the details, so just watch, counsels Mr. Brown. The parents were questioned by Ms. White yesterday, who discovered that the parents had never been in your classroom. She also doesn't communicate well with her kids, so she really knew nothing. However, she had overheard one parent saying that you were taking the kids to a place no one had gone before, putting off the normal procedure to follow untried methods. This parent thought that sounded like you weren't following normal procedures, and so you should be fired. Who said that about me anyway? Asked Sam. In negotiations, it's wise to avoid names wherever possible, smiles Mr. Brown. So the overheard parent was Mrs. O'Brien. She was misunderstood by the parent in question. Mrs. O'Brien was not questioning your teaching style, she was applauding it. All this over a misunderstanding? Questioned Sam. This is unbelievable. Yes, that is correct, agrees Mr. Brown. Unfortunately, there is no way to easily punish the actions of Principal Jacobs, but the assistant principal sees clearly the error and has found an effective way to resolve all of this, reports Mr. Brown. Ms. White has recorded the statement of the parent who wanted you to be fired, including her recanting her initial charges. All charges have been dropped, allowing Principal Jacobs to reinstate you immediately without prejudice. So his mistake goes unpunished, even though it brought harm to several people, complains Sam. That doesn't seem fair at all. My task in all of this is to see that your reputation is kept clean and that your career is unaffected, states Mr. Brown. Principal Jacobs has agreed to your immediate reinstatement as a teacher, but not just as a teacher, but a fully tenured teacher. Your salary will be increased by 10%, and the entire record of your firing will be expunged from your official record. Really, Mr. Brown? He agreed to all of that? Questioned Sam. He did, and I showed him clearly what he had done, how it was against protocol, and what the punishment could be if we were to proceed litigating the case, explains Mr. Brown. He decided to take what we were offering. Now, you can choose to go to court, but you won't get a better result from any court. Principal Jacobs now sees clearly what he's done. So, I can go back to work, teaching like normal, right away? Asked Sam, still not believing that this whole situation is being resolved so quickly. Well, I told the principal that you were not available to return to teach for 10 days, says Mr. Brown. He decided that was fine too, and Mr. Waycross, trust me, you need to take a week to do something, to do nothing, but just clear your mind. Clear this whole affair from your mind and your soul. So take the time. Wow, this is unbelievable. Do you always have this kind of success, Mr. Brown? Asks Sam. This case has been almost miraculously resolved. Like you have a higher power at work for you, laughs Mr. Brown. Chapter 20. Sherry at the Mall. So, what does a man who normally works hard every day do at noon on a Friday with no place to go and nothing to do? No idea, thinks Sam, heading slowly to his car. Susie will still be at work. Can't really go to the school because classes are still in session. Don't want to visit the principal. So, what to do? Sam goes to the local mall and just walks aimlessly around, looking but not really seeing. In his meandering, he finds his mind strangely drawn back to the union rep's last words. This was miraculously resolved, like a higher power working for you. What could that even mean? The orange Julius sign catches Sam's attention. He's been there often with Susie, and it's very busy now, but an orange Julius would taste really, really nice about now. So he goes to stand in line. While standing in line, Sam notices a little wigwam replica in a nearby store window. Odd what one sees when one is standing around. Suddenly, his personal silence is broken by a familiar voice. Mr. Waycross, Mr. Waycross, shouts Sherry O'Brien, running up to him. What are you doing here on a school day? Hi, Sherry. I might ask you the same question, laughs Mr. Waycross. My mom picked me up early from school so I can get a dress for my church show, explains Sherry. I'm so glad to see you. Lately, you have made a huge impression on my brother. That is so good. I'm glad to hear that, Sherry, responds Mr. Waycross, wondering if she even knows that he's been fired from his teaching position. So, what is your church show? Well, I'm part of a drama group at church, and we get do a little do little one-act plays for the Sunday morning service, explains Sherry. We haven't been given the opportunity for a couple of months, so it's about time. This play is about the prodigal son, although we have renamed it the Hasty Homie, says Sherry, looking around. It's about a kid who gets a lot of money, blows it, and wonders where he can go. Does it have a happy ending? Asks Mr. Waycross, curious. And why are you looking around? Are you in some kind of trouble? And with his dad welcoming him home with open arms. So, what is the point of your play? Does it have a real meaning? Asks Mr. Waycross. Sounds like he's lucky if his father would even give him the time of day or allow him to come home. Yes, it does seem like that, but I still don't see the point of the story, complains Mr. Waycross, now just second in line for his drink. Well, it's about us and God, says Sherry, as she hears her mom calling her. Yeah, in life we run from God until everything is taken away. Then we might, just might, go looking for God, our Heavenly Father, who will for sure welcome us home. I've got to go, but it was great seeing you, Mr. Waycross. And with that, Sherry to find her mom, and Sam is asked for his order. An orange Julius, please, orders Sam, looking around for a place to sit while enjoying his drink. The mall is a wonderful place to sit and enjoy the flow of life all around you. You don't have to react, answer, do something, or even care. You can just sit there, sipping your drink, well, and maybe think a little. It was a little strange seeing Sherry at the mall in the middle of a weekday, especially since, unknown to her, her mom had played a role in his whole wigwam catastrophe. Actually, that would be a great name for a book written about the events of this last week, the wigwam catastrophe. Well, sometimes, especially when drinking an orange Julius a little too fast, your thoughts can get muddled. Sherry O'Brien says that she's in a play about someone whose world came collapsing down, and he miraculously gets everything back for no obvious reason. Hmm. Do you believe in coincidence? Sam's whole world a day ago came collapsing down. Today, it's all back as before for no apparent reason. Oh no. Okay. Hello, Mr. Waycross. Sherry told me that she saw you here today, says Mrs. O'Brien, disturbing his thoughts. I hear that congratulations are in order. I'm glad you will be back teaching the third grade. That wigwam needs a lot of inside work, I think. Oh, hi, Mrs. O'Brien, replies Sam, focusing on Alex's mother, standing in front of him. Good to see you, and yes, thank you about getting my job back. I was so sorry to hear you were out from our school, and even sorrier to hear why, says Mrs. O'Brien, still standing. Life can get pretty messy, no? You're right. This was a week to quickly forget, laughs Mr. Waycross, and any story is better with a happy ending. So thank you for the part that you played in getting me back to my normal. I'm so sorry, Mr. Waycross, but I have to go get Sherry over to church, so I must run, says Mrs. O'Brien, turning to leave. I'm sorry for anything I did to cause your pain in all of this. I appreciate you as a teacher. I really do. Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien, answers Sam as Mrs. O'Brien leaves. See you at school. She waves as she's running towards the store. Sherry is still shopping. Yeah, life can be life can be unusual at times. And that's the end of chapter 20. Chapter 21 begins next.